Geist and John Tiegen, members of the Benghazi Annex security team and co-authors of the book 13 Hours.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, America, for showing us the support and the dedication that should have been offered by Hillary and her State Department to those who actually saved their asses.
September 11, 2012, at approximately 9:35, 9:40, we got a call the U.S. consulate had been overrun. We immediately got our gear ready to go, got the vehicles ready, and we got, on 3 separate occasions, we got told to wait by the Chief of Base, Bob, and we got told to stand down. You know, next thing we know, we hear the State Department over the radio saying, hey, if you guys don't get here, we're all gonna die. Stand down or to be damned. Embassies, the consulate's under siege. We took off, we left, we weren't waiting no more. As the three of us moved on to the consulate, the first thing you see is the main village just engulfed in fire and smoke, you know, and just pouring out. Moved up to the front steps of the consulate. Off to my right, I see them pulling a body out of the window, limp body, and ended up being Sean Smith, and he was already dead of smoke inhalation by the time we showed up. Myself and Ron continued to move. We went in, just the heat of the fire, you know, just blasting our face. The smoke just obliterated our sight. It was so thick. We tried to get on our bellies to see underneath the smoke. Was no luck. A little while later, Tonto and DB came through the back gate. As they moved away onto the consulate grounds, started searching. After a few minutes, Tonto went and helped the State Department guys gather up the classified information, get them ready to go in their armored vehicle, and all of a sudden we ended up getting a counter-assaulted. And at that time, instead of the State Department security agents jumping out and helping us defend their U.S. consulate, they took off, which left the 6 of us to defend the consulate. You know, I got out, went up on the roof of the villa, made my way up to towards the back gate. The guy who initiated was with an RPG. On his 3rd shot as he's coming out, as I came over the top of the parapet, I let loose on about a 10-round volley and he dropped. It was calm for about 5 minutes. Then we got word they were gathering about another 100 or so terrorists from the drone feed that good old Hillary is watching. And it came to a point where we had to make a decision. You know, at that time, we didn't know the U.S. ambassador was even still at the consulate, if he had been kidnapped prior to us even getting there, but we're pretty sure if he was there, he was dead. You know, we had a responsibility of 30 other personnel over at the Annex, so we had to make the tough decision, and we headed back to the Annex without the ambassador.
You know, as the team arrived back at the Annex, we took up our fighting positions because we knew that they were going to be following up from the consulate and coming to our place. But we were ready for them. We started seeing movement on the east side of our compound. And then all of a sudden, something came flying over the wall, had sparks flying from it, landed between Tiegen and I and exploded. And that's when they opened up on us, but we also unleashed some hell on them. The first wave had about 20 terrorists in it. They went away with a whole lot less.
After that first initial firefight, you know, Ozzy's being kind of old, you know, he's like 40 years older than I am, so he had to pull out his med kit, grab some gauze, just like shove it in his ear. It's really funny. It looks like he's got a tampon on it, but sorry. But, you know, I kind of smile at him. I look at him and say, hey, you know, is that kind of loud much?
And you know that's because Tig come right up beside me, stuck his gun right here, firing right next to my left ear. Can't hear out of it to this day, thanks to him.
You should have moved.
You know, soon after that, we got word that the support team from Tripoli, led by Glenn Doherty, had landed at Benghazi Airport. You think the airport security in the United States is bad, you ought to try landing at an airport in a foreign country controlled by a militia that you don't know who their loyalty is to, and you've got a bunch of guns and a bag of money. Thank goodness money talks.
Mine doesn't. So, you know, going around 1:30 in the morning, you still have the U.S. ambassador. He's still missing. And, you know, still we got movement starting to come up again on our east side. And, you know, I get on the radio and said, hey, you know, hey, Bob, is there, are they going to secure the outer perimeter? Again, you're looking at 1:30, about 3.5 hours into the attack, and we get the answer, I don't know. Good intel. At that point, a vehicle actually came out of the darkness. A guy jumped out of the vehicle, immediately drew his arm back. How I saw him, you know, old age with the eyes, he ended up picking him out, threw 3 rounds into him. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, you know, and you would take that guy out, another guy would pop up, and then another guy would pop up.
You know, it's kind of like that arcade game down on the main strip. You always go play whack-a-mole. Guy'd stick his head up, and you'd take him out. Another guy'd stick his head up, and you'd shoot him.
You know, pretty much about a little bit after that, we got a call that the ambassador was located at the hospital in Benghazi. You know, there was no way for us to determine if this was valid, if he was alive, if he was dead. You know, we don't know if it could have been a trick for us, you know, to spread our defense, you know, and, you know, pretty much, you know, just kind of screw everybody else over at the consulate. But, you know, we had decided to stay put again.
You know, at this time, I had moved from where I was at with Tiegen and got up on top of the roof. We call it Building C. And I was up there with Tyrone. And, you know, during the downtime, me and Tyrone had started talking about events that night. And Tyrone had told me about earlier that night when Tig had saved his life, because he got lost in the smoke of the building over at the consulate. And he started yelling out for Tig. And Tig, with total disregard for his own safety, after having just come out of the smoke-filled room, went back in and pulled Tyrone out. It was during that, you know, and he was talking about his kids. And it was really, because all of us had a lot of young kids there, every one of us that was there. And heck, Jack had just found out that his wife had been pregnant. And so he had a newborn baby coming, and, you know, none of us at that point knew if we were going to make it home or not. And this is getting on to about that time in the morning, about 5:30, when the sun starts coming up, and you start seeing that change off on the horizon where the sky turns from really dark to that dark blue, kind of starting to turn light blue. And you're hearing the morning prayers from the minarets in the distance. About the time the call for prayer finished, you know, we thought, hey, the next attack is going to be here. About that time, when we heard over the radio that Glenn and the team from Tripoli had made their way to the Annex and were just getting ready to pull in, and when they did, instead of going inside the building, Glenn, he came up on top of the roof. He wanted to get in the fight. So he joined us up there. You know, and Tyrone introduced me to Glenn because I'd never met him before. First thing out of my mouth was, it's good to have another gunfighter up on top of that roof. He kind of turned and started walking away from me, and it was about that time that the final attack started. A rocket-propelled grenade hit the back wall, and small arms fire opened up from the north, right in front of me and Ty. A mortar hit on top of our outer wall, our outer perimeter wall, and the State Department guy yelled out that he was hit. Took some shrapnel up into his forehead. We opened up fire. Tyrone opened up with a machine gun. I opened up with my assault rifle. And that's when the second mortar hit. Hit about 15 feet to my right. The explosion kind of knocked me back a little bit. And as I stood back up, I kind of noticed that Roan was in a fetal position to my left at my feet. And I raised my left hand up to grab my rifle and start shooting, and that's when I noticed that I was first injured. And my left arm, about 6 inches above the wrist, was kind of hanging off at a 90-degree angle. It was then that the third mortar hit, and as I glanced over my right shoulder, I noticed that Glenn went face down on the roof, and he was out of the fight. I tried again to bring my arm up and grab my weapon because I wanted to get it back into the fight, and it just wouldn't work. I couldn't get it to hold on. And that's when the fourth mortar hit. And that's really the first time that I ever felt like any pain that night. And it felt like I got stung by like 1,000 bees. I figured at that time, this hard-headed Marine probably ought to get to some cover in case they drop another one on us. Semper Fi, thank you. So I dove for cover and everything went quiet. God bless you, thank you. I pulled the tourniquet out, started to get it on my arm, but I kind of got distracted. I wanted to check on Roan, so I crawled over, tried to find a pulse, couldn't find one. And it was about that time I saw a shadow come up on top of the roof, and that was Tig. The dust and debris still hadn't even finished falling when he come up on that roof.
He kind of got scared where we're initially fighting out of, so he went on the roof. And, you know, as I'm standing there, and, you know, the first round, you know, he's saying Roan was just laying hate pretty much, and, you know, when that first round hits the roof, it just went dead quiet. You know, the debris was so thick, you couldn't see the stars, you couldn't see, I mean, it just went pitch black, pitch quiet. I start moving towards the building C, and I get on the radio and I said, hey, you guys all right up on building C? Of course, I didn't expect a response at all, but the team leader gets on the radio and says, you know, hey, we're all right in here. Of course, you have to tell them to shut up, talking about the guys up on the roof. Jack gets on and says, hey, got no movement, ran over there. You know, first thing I do is I jump